I was excited about that. I was pumped up. I shared it with you guys. So I Googled it and I started seeing all kinds of things in the media that says that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the CDC's eviction moratorium.
You're listening to 5 Hour Real Estate Week, where you'll learn to consistently buy real estate in only 5 hours a week. So if you're ready to invest in real estate, achieve financial freedom, and own the lifestyle you deserve, even with your job, this is the show for you. Now, here's your host, Mike Butler.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the 5 Hour Real Estate Week podcast. And today's session is going to be on Market Mondays and the miscommunication of, let's call it, the media, and involving the CDC eviction moratorium. Now, what I'd like to point out to you, it was, I believe it was the day after the Supreme Court had their meeting, I sent out and I got an update from my attorney about everything going on with this CDC eviction moratorium. So I'm going to preface this with this. The major miscommunication on the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that involved the CDC eviction, which was scheduled originally to expire on June 30th, and the CDC a few days prior, they extended it to July 31st. And so I received this email from my Gladiator legal attorney in all this, and this is what he received at 7 a.m. on June the 30th, the morning of June the 30th. Now, keep in mind that what he told me about how this came about, and he says back on June 29th, which was a Tuesday evening, the U.S. Supreme Court, they worked late. They worked the night before the CDC eviction moratorium deadline of June 30th was set. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against the CDC eviction moratorium in a 5-4 vote. Now, that's what I was told, and that's what I shared with you guys, I guess, within the last week or so ago. This stuff's just piling up so fast with everything else going on. So I want to read to you word for word what I received from my attorney. And here's what it says. The title, this 7 a.m. on June 30th is when he gets this. It says, the High Court says the CDC lacks authority. So in a 5-4 ruling Tuesday evening, the U.S. Supreme Court said the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention lacked the authority to implement a blanket nationwide eviction moratorium. I'm thinking, wow, that's good news for us. All right, here's the next paragraph. Although the court declined to lift the ban immediately, the ruling means the current moratorium will expire at the end of July. Okay, so pause there for a second. The CDC, prior to the U.S. Supreme Court having their Tuesday night meeting, the CDC director of that extended it till July 31st. So now listen to this. This next paragraph here is from the National Association of Realtors president, Charlie Oppler. Listen to this. In quotes they have, this is a massive victory for property rights, says NAR president Charlie Oppler. Quotes again, for more than a year, mom and pop property owners have been pushed towards financial ruin as they upkeep their properties and pay their taxes and mortgages with no income of their own. With the pandemic waning and the economy improving, it is time to restore the housing sector to its healthy former function. Property owners also deserve this absolute clarity. And then I've got 3 dots, and I don't get to see the rest of that legal brief that my attorney received 7 a.m. the morning after the U.S. Supreme Court ruling. So I was excited about that. I was pumped up. I shared it with you guys. But then, oh my gosh, check this out. So I Googled it, and I started seeing all kinds of things in the media that says that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the CDC's eviction moratorium. And here's one from NPR, and it says the Supreme Court leaves the CDC's moratorium on evictions in place. And I'm going to read a little bit of this. The U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday refused to lift a ban on evictions for tenants who failed to pay all or some rent during the coronavirus pandemic. By a 5-4 vote, the court left in place the nationwide moratorium on evictions. issued by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Alabama Association of Realtors had challenged the moratorium. So Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who cast the fifth and deciding vote, wrote in a concurring opinion that he voted not to end the eviction program only because it is set to expire on July 31st. And because those few weeks will allow for additional and more orderly distribution of the funds that Congress appropriated to provide rental assistance to those in need due to the pandemic. He added, however, that in his view, Congress would have to pass new and clearer legislation to extend the moratorium past July 31st. Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I read that's on the NPR website, and then you can Google it and find all kinds of messages, which just blew my mind. And all the media that is anti-property owner rights, they said that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the CDC eviction moratorium and against property owners. So this was very confusing to me, and I've researched it. And so bottom line is this, I guess what it boils down to is, do you view the glass as half full or the glass as half empty? And the glass is always, the water's level in the glass is always in the middle, but is it half empty or half full? Well, I guess if you're a media outlet, you can run with it in whatever flavor you want. So that's very frustrating to me, and we'll see what happens. But I've been told, rumor has it that up the neighborhood of Boston, they're looking to extend the eviction moratoriums to April of 2022. I don't have any facts on that, no sources on that, but just stay tuned for that. And that's an update for your Market Mondays. Stay tuned. I'll see you on the next session. Adios.
Glad you joined us for another episode of 5-Hour Real Estate Week. The best thing you can do now is put this information to action. To help you get started, Mike created a free resource for you called How to Buy 50 Houses a Year, Even with Your Job. Download it now by going to mikebutler.com/50 houses. And we'll see you on the next episode.